Hi, I'm Erin Elliott from the Bashar channeled by Daryl Anka Facebook group. And just to let everyone know, that's an unofficial Facebook group. It's not directly associated with Bashar Communications, but we do all that we can to keep to their guidelines and to talk about and share the information as clearly as possible as we can. So I'm here with Tyler Ellison, a member of the Bashar channel by a Daryl Anka Facebook group, and I recently received a Facebook message from him about sharing his channeling with me and wanting to do a group channeling session. And I was very impressed by the clip he sent me, and we'll post that in the comments, or it's already up on a different comment in a different thread in the group. And so we're going to be doing a group channeling session where you can submit your questions and I will facilitate that group session. And we're going to do that in the Galactic Channeling group through that. It's also going to be on his YouTube channel, I assume, when that's completed. So we hope if you resonate with Tyler's work when you hear it, please participate in that. And feel free to ask us through Messenger if you have any questions about that. Okay, so Tyler, I'd like to ask you, you channel a Sassani energy, you say. It's more of a collective?
Yeah, so that's right. At this point it's collective. So I've been channeling since like 2015, and I find that I can shift through different groups. So I don't specifically channel Sassani beings. However, I recently got back into Bashar material, and just because of the potency of this period of the now that we're in, it like just accelerated so much in my life. And as soon as that happened, I was, very aware that it would make sense to connect more with, with those beings. I was trying to do a lot kind of on my own, and as soon as I allowed for assistance to come through Daryl's work and through Bashar, and I started applying it again, I was like, whoa, okay, I should focus my attention onto this civilization because I'm getting, real life results really fast. So yeah, I do channel Sassani beings. Yes.
Okay. Was there a particular transmission that really triggered this new interest in it?
Let's see. What was I listening to? There were a few recordings he had that kind of started to make an impact. Like I felt like they built over time. Because I don't frequently buy the sessions. I'll watch like the little YouTube clips that Bashar Communications will release, and there was a few in particular, but there was one where he's talking to this woman who's like saying like, I try to follow my excitement, and then something crazy happens, and a negative result is like created externalized thing. And he's just like, that is your effect. And he's like super direct. He's like cutting through the illusory perceptions. And he's like, it's almost like he's kind of grabbing her and being like, listen, that's you doing it. You can let go of that. And it was those sort of moments where I'd listen to him where he'd be like, listen, nothing can shake you. Everything is your own creation in that sense. You're observing something, but it's your perception that determines the effect. When I started really buying into that as a belief, everything started shifting because I kind of fell out of that. Actually, I started to believe into externalized things being able to affect, my own reality, and it got actually kind of disastrous. It was a very detrimental belief system to use, and as soon as I went back into sort of the masterful co-creative role, it all shifted. So those were the Bashar messages that really reinvigorated the connection.
Oh, okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever would you say interacted with Bashar through Daryl, like at a channeling session, or just Bashar in your dreams specifically?
I've had a few dreams with Bashar and Daryl. I want to go, and I do want to do a private session with Bashar, literally just out of respect. Like I love the man and love the Sassani collective so much. It's like I really feel I should go just to, I don't know, I feel like it'll have upgrades. But no, I haven't been in person.
Okay. Just curious. When would you say you got into Bashar?
Pre-2012, I think right around 2011, I started getting into Bashar. And it was just a really interesting time. I can elaborate into the context of that if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So I was just like, how would I put it? I was kind of like a when I was younger, I was sort of like a rebellious party animal, especially in the 2011 time. And I was really into like any sort of substance that could produce like transcendental like effects. That was like something I was really exploring. So I started connecting with a friend who was just really into new age stuff. He had like all these crystals. He had all these like recordings and videos and books on like consciousness expansion. And I like took one look at all that stuff and just like something in me just woke up. I was like, I'm supposed to be doing all of this. So we kind of were, like recreationally altering consciousness within ourselves. We were also using these tools. And just through like applying different metaphysical practices daily, we shifted ourselves into a reality where my friend was like, "Oh, hey, check out this," and he's showing me Bashar on YouTube, and I didn't know what channeling was. I thought that was like a person. I was like, "Whoa, who is this guy?" And he's talking about, like, I was mind blown. I was like, "Who is this human talking in this way?" And then very quickly, I was exposed to like the backstory of Bashar, and that was how I was introduced to Bashar and Dale Anka's work.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then when did you start channeling? Shortly after that?
About 5 years, not 5 years, so 4 years later. I started channeling the summer of 2015 was when I started practicing.
Oh, and that's how you just did the gamma breathing, or was there another way that you learned?
So this is a little like, how would I put it? I'm sure different people affiliated with Bashar wouldn't like this, but someone leaked recordings that Bashar made in the 80s of a how to channel class.
Oh.
And they broke it up as parts. I don't know if it's still on YouTube, but at the time it was, and I came across it and just started practicing. I was like, let me try these things out. And then I found it was enough to get me into the channeling state. And I originally was using it not for vocalized channeling. I was using it for writing. I wanted to channel out an entire fictional story. So, and it was coming together. It was a pretty cool story, but then I kind of got in the way near the end. I was like judging the material. I was like, I don't like the way this is going. And so the story kind of diminished. But then what happened was I had a really profound, like very spiritual dream where I like seamlessly woke up from the dream. Like I transitioned out of sleep into physical reality again. And I had this crazy all-encompassing feeling of love, like vortex energy of getting pulled into it. And it was so overwhelming that I literally woke up and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like I like literally like Frankenstein, like got or whatever that being is that just like sits up real quick, like after being asleep for a long time. I literally woke up like that. So I decided to channel the content of the dream, and just to see what would happen. And I got what I felt was very like insightful information. So when that started happening, I was like, okay, I can vocally channel, and then I just slowly started to open up that door over time.
Wow. Wow, that's really exciting. I'm sure a lot of people would be interested in hearing about what was in those sessions from the 80s. Are you willing to share a little bit about like what's the difference now? He just talks about gamma breathing and really doing that. Was there more to that?
So it was a class done by both Daryl and Bashar. So Daryl's giving different exercises a person can do to be able to get into the channeling state. Some of the stuff is he has people like one of the exercises is you get a chair, two chairs, and they're facing each other. You sit in one chair and you act like you're talking to yourself, like another you's in the chair facing you, and you just start to have a conversation. You just are like, "Hey, how's it going? It's been a long time since I've seen you. What's new?" And then you get up and sit in the other chair and you respond, and you're sort of letting yourself respond, and you're going back and forth. And it was very powerful. I mean, I felt I was having repressed aspects of myself come out. It was almost like I was giving my shadow an opportunity to express itself in a non-destructive way, in a way where it's just like, by the way, this is how you feel. So that was one of the exercises. It seemed like Daryl's were very almost like what you'd expect in like kind of like an acting class, where Bashar's stuff was like, imagine there's like tubes coming out of your chest extending to infinity, forwards and backwards, and like so it really it was a very cool recording because the exercises were very much, I think, in resonance with each being, right? So Daryl's very human, Bashar is very quantum in nature.
Oh my goodness, that's so cool. And they would go back and forth, or?
Yeah, they would. So there'd be like moments where Daryl would be doing a lot of the teaching, and then Bashar would be doing a lot of the teaching.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a fantastic class. I don't know who made the recording. I don't know if it was a student or if Daryl posted. I imagine it was probably a student who took the class who uploaded it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I hope it's available to people for purchase because it was very useful class.
Thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, is there anything else you'd want to talk about before we get a little taste of your channeling?
Let's see. What would I like to talk about? Yeah, I think one thing that was incredibly interesting. This is something I feel really inspired to talk about because it was kind of like I don't want to call it a trap, but that's sort of how I perceived it. It was more like I just bought into a belief for a long time and it was very limiting. To me, it felt like a trap though. And when I stepped out of the belief, I was like, I can't believe I was in that point of view for so long. But I ended up falling into the belief that externalized entities could have the ability to alter my own free will and autonomy and my own co-creative power. This was a belief system I was using based off of another teacher I got into. So I kind of exchanged a lot of Bashar's material for this other point of view that seemed very advanced. It was the person has great teachings, but part of those teachings can be, I think if someone has a belief on a background level where they believe they're susceptible to negative influence, that can be projected into these teachings and then it can reinforce it. So I found as I got into these beliefs of, negative beings, dark ETs, what ended up happening was I developed intense paranoia, pretty much paranoia of other people, of energies. And it was all because I had this belief that the I am presence could be manipulated by something. And I really want to just emphasize that that was for me what I would call a trap. I bought into that for over a year. And I had a lot of cool realizations. I mean, it wasn't a totally negative belief in the sense that it showed me a lot of lessons. But at the end of the day, it was actually very destructive. It was hard to be a normal functioning person when you believe there's all this strange energy trying to mess with you. That was actually crippling. But it was fascinating to step outside of that and go into the belief of nothing can alter the I am presence and its point of view except myself. And it was literally as soon as I shifted that, crazy instant change. So I just really want to emphasize that one simple belief change can dramatically alter the reality experience you're having. And I just want to emphasize that because there really is so much power in our point of view. It's unlimited power, and it can create heaven or hell depending on what the belief is. And it was just a very fascinating experiment, year-long experiment, pretty much.
Well, I wonder why. Do you have any idea why people or why you were originally attracted to that? Or
So what ended up happening, it came through networking. So I had a friend who lives in Connecticut who is it was pretty much he developed a very personal relationship with this spiritual teacher, and he actually invited people from that teacher's organization to live with him, and I became friends with all of them, and it was this really cool network. We were having so much interesting consciousness adventures and doing channeling sessions in hot tub. It was hilarious. It was a crazy period of time. And I ended up just you know how they say you kind of start to resonate with who you're hanging out with. I was hanging out with them a lot, and a big part of the teachings are kind of this narrative of Earth being negatively controlled, the whole kind of Archon system and the whole kind of the kind of dark point of view of Earth's been manipulated for so long, and you got to take your free will back. And over time, just kind of through desiring to be closer with these friends, desiring to expand my own consciousness, and viewing these teachings as advanced and then they in and of themselves having power, I just started to apply it. And I think I had the beliefs in me that were in resonance with these teachings, and the teachings just kind of brought it out to give me an opportunity to see if I wanted to keep them.
oh.
But that was that was what had happened.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And I still have a lot of, I mean, I have love for each of the people from those times too. Like, even though, I mean, I kind of induced my own sort of hellish experience for like a year. I mean, it wasn't totally that. It was just the spiritual dimension started to really become that. But it was still a lot of fun. It was still a great experiment. And it got to show me just, again, the power of belief and like how quickly stuff can change through uh, realizing that you're indestructible. Yeah.
Wow. So, and now you're using that to help other people by telling us about that story and your transformation of it. I think it's very helpful. Did any of the other people also have that realization that you know of?
I don't, not really. And I think what's interesting is that a lot of these people that are, they work with this teacher, they say that the teachings are multi-layered. So whatever beliefs you have within you, they're going to get projected onto the teachings and it will determine the effect. So I had mentioned this. I was like, I feel like these teachings are kind of reinforcing, you know what I mean? Like negative ideas and limiting ideas. And they were like, that's just one dimension. It's like, if you have that, that's what you're going to get. And they immediately were like, check it out. Like, he also says, like, if you reclaim your sovereignty, like, you become this, like, being of truth. So he's talking about, they say the teachings are talking about different points of view that exist within the human experience. And whatever one you have within you is going to be the one you see. And it's, they compare it to, like, fire. They're like, they're very fiery teachings and you might get burned, if you play with them. That's how they're described. So I actually, I can't really claim to know the other people's points of view, to be honest. It's just the teachings are that interesting, and mysterious is a good word, where I think whatever experience and beliefs the individual has, that's what they're going to get reflected back through them.
Wow.
Yeah.
So some of them could even be along the lines of the Bashar point of view, couldn't it?
Yeah.
But you left it though, even though you kind of switched over to more of the Bashar point of view.
Yeah. I still go back. I think that, as I change, the version of this teacher and the other people and the teachings themselves will change too. So I've learned to not become hyper focused on one teacher, because in the past, I think it has to do sort of with my own nature of being very passionate. Sometimes I can get a little locked into one perspective. So if I'm listening to just one teacher, it can get a little unbalanced. So I still go back to this other person for wisdom, and then I'll go to Bashar for wisdom, and then I'll listen to stand-up comedians that are into consciousness for wisdom. And I've learned to have many different sources of external reflections of that inner knowingness. So I still pick it back up, still get into it, but realize there's aspects of it that I don't have to resonate with. I can use what's useful to me and leave the rest, essentially. Mm-hmm. And this is actually what that one teacher suggests. He says, have the a la carte belief system where you can pick one thing up, put one thing down, not be locked in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fun. I think that's where we're heading to, that point of view.
Mm-hmm.
It's all so personalized to our own spiritual path.
Mm-hmm.
One day we won't even need teachers.
I know. Yeah. I think we're very quickly getting to that point. Even in private sessions I've done with people, a lot of the stuff that comes through is the beings will be talking to the person, and the person might be like a yogi and they have like a guru, and the beings will be like, listen, like, you're getting to the point where like you have to begin to become your own teacher, because you're like projecting that role onto people, and it's reinforcing a belief of not knowing what to do. Mm-hmm. And it's like you have to create the belief of, I know my next step, I know what I'm doing, I know why I'm here, and then allow for your own inner teacher to come forth. So this is, I think you're right, this is information I'm hearing as well. And yeah. Also, too, I wanted to comment on what. Do you mind if I bring up something you had posted on the Bashar page?
I don't mind.
Okay, you had mentioned a belief system discovery within yourself that was sort of co-created under the influences of religion. Mm-hmm. I recently, today, I was doing a meditation exercise that's very heavy in the crown chakra. And when I came out of it, I was feeling all of these very, just, I would call it negative feelings that were localized here, like right in the crown. And I was like, whoa, like, what is this? I'm like, did I do the technique wrong? Did I like mess up my energy body? I'm like, I don't think it's any of that. I'm pretty practiced. I don't think I messed up. So I started playing with it. And then I was like, okay, what is the belief system here? And what came through were all of these different religious beliefs. I had this belief of like God doesn't love me, like in the crown. And I was like, oh my God, like this is Christian. Because I went to a Christian high school. I was like, this is Christian programming that I bought into. And that's actually been limiting my connection to the universe because I believe the universal self doesn't love like this extension of itself. And I was like, oh my God, I was like, what? And I thought it was hilarious because with all this, like new age information of like, everything's unconditional love, you'd almost think that belief would be bypassed or like just automatically deleted, but yet it was still there, still being generated. And the meditation just induced the realization of these kind of religious based programs that, I bought into at different times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks for hearing that. I thought mine were released as well. And then I realized that I still like had an association with Satan. That was what mine was about. I connected to this energy that was now that I would perceive as being more Anunnaki energy, like dragon, serpent, reptilian energy. And then I had that realization that I was connecting to that as a child. When I would hear about Satan, somehow I was connecting in church the way that I was hearing them talk about Satan, like that's the energy I associated it with. So what was coming through to me. And I was able to detach those beliefs that the church had ingrained in me or that I had accepted from the church about that type of energy being harmful and being, something that would punish. And I was able to let that go and just feel the energy of this reptilian kind of mysterious knowing presence that was actually, in my perception, more of like an Anunnaki memory of the hybridization within the collective consciousness of humanity. So now it was neutralized, and it's just that I'm not associated with an idea of Satan. That's kind of nothing to me now.
Yeah. So I know we're at, I think we're almost at 30 minutes. I was wondering before we go deeper, if we could take a small break. I just wanted to use just the restroom before we get into the channeling or the, okay, cool.
All right. We'll see you.
Awesome. Right back.